Good morning again, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your enthusiasm. I did get RSVPs up to this morning. My name is Nisa Pear. I'm the manager for communications and visibility at ResMBid, and I'll be leading the first half of this morning's session. So I know we have a couple more people coming in. So just to start, yes, and I see Karen Mahey, who is my deputy, my trusted deputy at communications. And Karen, will lead the second half, which is the more practical part. So while we wait for a couple more people to come on, why don't we just kind of go around the room, the virtual room, and just let us know your name and what project you are representing. Feel free to raise your hand, turn on your mic, and or just put it into the chat. Thank you.
Actually, I think Nisa, just having them put in the chat which projects they're represented would be very useful for us. Thanks. So if each of you could just indicate which of the projects you're representing in our chat, that would be very useful information. Thank you.
And speaking of the chat, so this session, Karen and I are, of course, by nature communicators. So we really do want this session to be as interactive as possible. So whenever you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand, put it into the chat. It's not meant to be, teachers and students. We really do want to have an interactive forum. So do feel free to communicate as we go along through this morning's presentations. So I will get started, as I mentioned, and of course, as is stated in the email, I will lead the first half this morning where it's all the boring theoretical stuff where I talk about why we're here, why we're doing this, why we have to acknowledge the EU and these lovely people, these names above me. But more importantly, how we go about doing it and doing it in the right way. So I'll get quickly started. Now, as you would remember, it's two sessions and we're meant to have a half an hour break in between. That said, we are also open to just continuing based on the flow. So when I am done, I will ask what the preference is, and we'll decide if we want 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, or just you all are so interested and so captivated by what I'm saying that you can't wait for Karen to come on next, and we just keep on going. Okay, everyone. So welcome to the first half of the Communications and Visibility Workshop. I really want to take this time to congratulate all of you for getting this far. You've all gone from a project idea, which I'm sure you were discussing with your colleagues, into how on earth are we going to actually do this? And not only have you managed to conceptualize this idea and get it to this stage, but now you're in the talking stage. It's now time to really make some noise about your projects and what we call the ResMBid role. So again, really sincere congratulations from all of us at ResMBid, and of course the communications team, who most of you have already liaised with and will continue to do so. So first off, I'll just get started with the requirements from EU and ResMBid. This is extremely important, of course, because we are all here, whether we are staff or project leads, we're all here due to the contribution of the European Union, the implementation of expertise grants, and of course, the collaboration with the World Bank, GFDRR. So we really do need to be very clear on what is required from all of these parties as well as from ResMBid, and I will walk you through that. So first of all, we are all guided by the EU visibility guidelines. This includes not just ResMBid, but any other EU-funded project across the world. So you have also joined an elite group of thousands of projects around the world that are receiving EU financing for your projects, and there are some guidelines that we have to follow. Now, I just want to say that everything that you see, not only will we send the presentation and the reporting, but of course, all of the tools that I'm going to, especially the guidelines book that I'm going to show you. If you haven't already received it, this is what we call our Bible. We, consult it every day, and all the things that ResMBid does and all the things that we expect you to do should be guided by this. So this, when you do get the PowerPoint, this is a link. When you hover over this, just press Control and click it. and it should take you to the guidelines book, which is this. So again, you will receive this document, so don't worry about trying to capture every note. This is, as you can see, a 30-page document. So of course, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but I do want to highlight some of the more salient points, especially given what, the products that we have seen, what we know that you're going to produce. So I'll start with section 3, online communication and visibility, because of course, most of your activities are online, whether they're on your website, social media, etc. So this is really quite an important section to discuss. Again, I'm not going to go through each and every aspect, but I think it is important to highlight these particular things. Particularly the second paragraph that says partners must include information about the EU financed actions they are implementing on their home website, social media accounts, which must predominantly feature the EU emblem, according by text acknowledging support of the European Union, including links to relevant EU websites. So what does all of this mean? If your project is building a website, there are not very many of you who have, but if you are doing a website for your project, somewhere on the project needs to have a link to a tab of something that not just acknowledges the EU as the donor. And I'm saying the EU, but we'll get to this part, but you must spell out the entire word, European Union. It must also feature a link to an EU website. So whether it is the site about the EU itself, the EU Green Deal, whatever it is, but of course we will help you. If you've not already designed your website and you do still have to include this, of course, Karen and I will be on hand to say exactly what that collaborating link would be. And then section 2.12, again, this is all in the documents. You do not have to learn section names. Immediately beside or below the European Union emblem is the EU's financial contribution must be acknowledged, so funded or co-funded as appropriate by the European Union, as I said, spelling out the words in full. So if you look at the bottom, the white strip at the bottom of this screen, this suffices, because there is the EU flag and funded by the European Union. I will, of course, in another section go through the uses of the logos. So very important, social media, and Karen will really get into the practical elements of social media best practices and whatnot. So this will make more sense when Karen shows you again her practical approach. But for us, really and truly, again, we know you'll do send at least some of the social media to us. But I think what is important here is that we need to be able to track your social media content. So it would be really helpful for us and for you if you tag ResMBID across the platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, as well as if you could hashtag ResMBID, so that if at any time we do need to find a post and just track what you are doing, how your project is going, we'll be able to do that. Really, really important, because everybody has some sort of event plugged into their communications and visibility plan, whether it is the mandatory project launch and project ending, press conference, etc. These are very important, not just to us at ResMBID, but of course the EU. So very importantly, and again, I'm just going to highlight the most salient section, the EU emblem must prominently be displayed on materials online and at venues to ensure people are attending such events are aware of the EU's financial support. So again, the white strip at the bottom, and it's deliberately there on every slide so that you can see and constantly just kind of draw your eye to that. That does suffice. But you also need to ensure at your events, you do have pull-up banners, you do have media backdrop, whatever it is, because there must be a way to very clearly display this one. I will get into the brand guidelines book, but of course this also holds true for any material that you're producing, cups, hats, pens, whatever. this is the way to acknowledge the EU's financial support. This also extends to any speeches that may be given. Of course, you thank RESMBID, but again, none of us would be here without the financial contribution of the European Union as donor. So it is important, not just important, but mandatory that that is referenced. So photography, quite straightforward. I think what is important for everyone to know, because there are quite a few projects, that involve children, minors, etc. So if you are the BVI Smart Schools or the EMIS project in Anguilla, where this directly impacts children, it is very important, particularly when you begin capturing the stories, their stories, and certainly their pictures, that consent is given from their parents or guardians. And it's important to, even if it's one paragraph, 2 paragraphs, whatever, these waivers are also to be given in the national language, because of course, or the appropriate language of the area that you're operating in, because of course we won't want somebody to say that it was in English, but they only speak Papiamento or something like that. So again, this is something that we are happy to help you work on, but a really, really important point to note. The same goes for video, of course. And again, important to acknowledge the EU. So at the beginning and or end of the production, this film or video was produced with the financial support of the European Union. What we do at RESMBID is we use, again, the logo strip that is at the bottom and then our logo on the top. And I will show you exactly what that looks like as we get to the logos. Just a note that I am on full screen, so if anyone has a question, Karen or anyone, just let me know if there is a question, and I'll be happy to answer it because I cannot see. Okay, another important one, vehicle supplies and equipment. So if there is one project that has, they have trucks as part of their grant. There is another that has large printers. So again, it is really important, because this, like any other product of these projects, does require the acknowledgement of the EU as the financial donor. So again, these vehicles must be clearly identified, must bear the EU emblem. The phase provided in support. Again, the logo strip at the bottom is sufficient. That being said, at the end of the project, implementing partners are required to remove the EU emblem and the other EU visibility marks, particularly when transferring ownership of the vehicles on completion of the action. So this is something that we have been asked before. How long do we have to keep this on? Is it forever? So for us, when the RESMBID program itself has wrapped and the program is closed, it is at that point that you are able to, if you so choose, if you can remove the labeling, but not before. I do see a hand up, Nikisha.
Hi, Nisa, there's a question in the chat.
Sure, thank you. What is it?
Are consent forms necessary if we take photographs of participants, adults, of a training session that we organize? That's from Conrad out of Montserrat.
Thank you so very much. So for the most part, the adults, especially those that are participating in a program, they know that this will be photographed, and they're certainly aware. So I would say no for the consent form for the adults, but absolutely the children and minors, yes. Any more questions before I move on to another section? Okay. So moving on. So reporting on communications and visibility. So now you understand why we have to do these things, what we have to do. So now somebody has to record this. And I know that the mail component some people do struggle with this, because it is quite extensive. not just on our side, but on the European Union side, but particularly for communications, it is important that we are able to record all of the, I will have some record of all of the good work that you have been doing, whether it is, as Nikisha just said, and Conrad, a training session, press conference, press releases, things that we may not see easily online. If you've done a radio show that we may not be able to pick up online, these are things that really not just benefit us, but really does benefit the project when you do, make note of this in the meal reporting component of the of your project. We know it is difficult, but it is phenomenally important because it also allows us to report back to the EU, and we can say, look at how well Aruba is doing, look at Montserrat, look at, and look at these projects that are really standing out. But more importantly, or I should say of equal importance, what it helps us to do is if there are any projects that are struggling, if there are any projects that are falling behind on the required components that were outlined in your communications and visibility plans, it allows us to step in and help you and to, find out what we can do to make sure that you get up to not just where you promised to be, but where you are required to be. So again, of course, you can reach out to Karen and I for support directly for communications issues. However, the meal team is available for all things meal. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about submitting your meal reports, you can always email meal@resambid.org to request assistance. So again, just kind of going down into the acknowledgement of the donor and partners. So we've now understood what we have to do and why we have to do it. So now there's how are we going to do it? So there is language to be used. And I think this is really important because this helps whether it is in, whether you're doing a press interview, it's in a press release, you're doing a radio show, you're doing something on site. This is really important language to learn. I'm not sure, I think someone is not on mute. So if you could just mute your mic, please, that would be great. So first thing, really important, EU funded versus RESMBID funded. RESMBID does not give you any money. The money comes from the European Union. So particularly when you are writing, because we've seen this a lot in the press releases that have come to us for approval, you must say that it is funded by the European Union. This is not RESMBID's fund, so this is a really important distinction to make. A RESMBID project versus a RESMBID supported project. Now, one of the things that we are very adamant about in RESMBID and the team is that none of us would be here without you. These projects are not ours, they are not our ideas. So you need to say that there are no RESMBID projects. There are RESMBID supported projects. We provide the support to you, technical assistance, whatever it is, that's what we provide to you. So you say RESMBID supported versus RESMBID project. It's not a RESMBID event. It's not a RESMBID breakfast. It's not a RESMBID press conference. It's RESMBID supported. And again, kind of as a secondary point to what I just said, this is your project. So don't let us take the glory. You take the glory. It's your project. It is Green Phoenix project or a VNGI project. This is your project supported by RESMBID, funded by the EU. Again, really, really important distinctions to make. Karen will speak more about just kind of representation of this in either social media or traditional media. But this is really, if you take away nothing else from me, please take this away because, of course, the EU is particularly sensitive about this, and so are we. We want to say the correct things. And I will just say, even though Karen is going to speak to press releases, also in your in the headlines, as far as possible, do say Statia receives X amount of euro from EU-funded project or EU-funded program, EU-funded RESMBID program, whatever it is. So this really is important to kind of take into all of the different media types and media products that you do produce. Right, so as I mentioned, I do want to just go in really quickly about the logos and their uses. There we go. Anyway, so as I was saying, I do want to go through just kind of quickly the logos that are required for use and, of course, how to use them. So for us, this is our logo, of course, ResMBid, and we 9 times out of 10, it is accompanied by the logo strip that I've been talking about at the bottom throughout this this morning's chat. So again, this, as the note says, it acknowledges ResMBid as of course, the program kind of leading the charge, the EU as the donor, Expertise France as the implementing partner, and of course, in collaboration with the World Bank. Just like the EU Visibility Guidelines document, if you have not already, because of course, most people have started producing different items, but we have noticed that things that have come to us for approval do have really old logos, or not this version that has funded by, including the French translation. So if you do not have this, please do indicate that. And as far as possible, I will try to include in the, because we do, as you know, send a recap that includes the recording. And I will try to add a link to all of these, a folder of all of these things that you need to use. If that cannot be done, I will let you know. However, everybody should have had access to this already. And if you do not, we will certainly pass on to you. So the brand guidelines book also speaks to, and we'll go quickly into that as well. It gives you an idea of exactly how and when to use the ResMBid logo. So we do, for example, know that this beautiful, maroon, blue, and green logo does not, and the gray text does not work on everything. Sometimes you need gray, sometimes you need black, and this is, we do give you not just the examples of how to use it, but also, again, in that folder, you will have the source files that you can use. This will also tell you, so ResMBid has 2 versions of the logo. The first one is the horizontal logo, and this one is a stacked logo, and this is to be used where spaces are limited, and of course the different color versions that can be used. And the horizontal logo is when there is enough room that you do not have to stack it. There is no wrong or right answer. They are both correct once they are used within these parameters that we show you. So let's talk about incorrect usage really quickly. So you cannot in any way. Sorry, there's a hand up.
That's me. It's Karen. You have 2 questions. Are there other, and this is coming from Edeline, are there other key KPIs we need to measure? For example, PR value, ad value, reach, key message resonance, etc. And the second question from Robbie, do you have the EU banner with a transparent background, all the others too?
Okay, so I'll answer, as we're on this, I'll answer this first. So yes, we do have the, I believe we have the AI files. We have everything that you need. So, and again, I really hope, and I know Dante is on the call, so hopefully he can, jump in and tell me if this is possible. But if we can put a link to all of these things, and all of the logos and the vector files, all of them will be in that link that you can access, that would be great. But yes, we do have them. As for the first question, I don't believe in the meal report it goes into that granular detail. However, if you are able to produce this kind of back-end data, that would be great. So for example, Karen and I don't know the reach of, let's say, a radio station. And I think I speak to this in a subsequent slide. If you are able to provide the information, if you can go beyond just saying, okay, we were on Radio 100 on June 6th at 10 a.m. If you are able to say this radio station is in Cayman, listenership of 10,000 people, that would be great, because of course then we understand the value, quote unquote, of your activity on that day. So if once you're able to provide that, that would be really helpful. Okay. Moving on. So as I mentioned, some of you should be in, or if all of you really should be in receipt of the brand guidelines book, but if not, we will add that as part of the folder of all of these items. And again, when you open we will share the PowerPoint presentation, and this is saved as a link into the presentation. So again, I'm not going to go through all of it because most of you should have seen this already, but just going to quickly go through some of the brand guidelines. So again, this is where I would have gotten the logo information, and it's all there for you. This is also particularly helpful when you are producing, whether it's a water bottle, t-shirt, whatever. These kind of parameters and these measurements do help, especially when you send to a printer. Most of you would not know, spacing and sizing and measurements. So this is something that is really helpful to consult. Again, and sometimes you have a small item. This tells you the minimum size that it can go to. Again, this is not something you have to memorize. We will send this to you. Really important, color. So at no point should you have to pick apart the ResMBid logo, for example, and rebuild it. But if for whatever reason in production, you need to reference our colors, the colors are here. The exact colors are here. So if anything ever needs to be reproduced, and of course, I know you will send to Karen and I for approval anyway, but if there's any need for reproduction of any kind, the exact colors are here. So there should be no error. This is just a note for you. Very unlikely will ever need this, but these are the secondary ResMBid colors. So for example, you'll see how I could click on a yellow highlighted bit in the PowerPoint presentation. That is from those colors. Again, if you ever had to reproduce anything, should not have to, because we send all sorts of files, different versions of the logo, but this does give you the typeface of what we use for our logo. The other part that you will get as well is how to use these things. And again, most people have already started producing material. So we do give examples of how to display this on a letterhead, how to do it on a banner, etc. So again, in the recap email, this will be sent to you. So really important. So you've done all of these things. You've prepared whatever material you need for us to approve. Now comes the feedback loop. Of course, all material, as you know, is to be sent to Karen and I. That being said, at this point, I don't even know how many people are on the call, but imagine if every one of you emailed us every day asking for approval. We are happy to do it, but it's only 2 of us. For now, we are getting help, but it's only two of us in addition to all of the other daily ResMBid tasks. So we do ask that you allow 5 to 10 business days, so that's 1 to 2 weeks. We are 9 times out of 10, we will get back to you in that time frame, but it really does allow us to go through all of the emails that we've received from every project, different versions of the email, different versions of whatever it is we need to produce, and get back to you. I will send, of course, you can send it to myself. My email is there, and Karen's as well. What we have noticed, however, is because we have so many emails coming in and so many emails about not just project approval stuff. I mean, Karen and I do a lot of different things, as you can imagine, for a 47 project program. So what we have realized is human nature, things do get missed. So what we've gone ahead and done is developed another email address called feedback@resmbid.org. So nothing else will go to that email except items for approval. This is to hopefully minimize the incidences of us just missing things in the deluge of emails that we do get every day. So you don't have to exclude Karen and I, certainly, but include this email so that we go to that inbox and anything we see there we know is for approval. That being said, please do not be afraid to send reminders. They are extremely helpful. You are not harassing us. Even if you feel you may be harassing us, if you send a third email, that is the one that we can be like, oh my gosh, Karen, Nisa, let's get this done, or send it to a program manager for assistance, whatever it is. But please do not be afraid to send reminders. Again, just bear in mind that the sweet spot for us is 1 to 2 weeks for approval. However, we do know that it's communications and things happen quickly, and and it's not, you don't always get that much lead time. So as far as possible, we will try to reduce that time, but just know that if you do send things to us, particularly in a period when everybody is doing activities, do allow for us to revert to you in that period. Any questions before I move on? Okay, so the last point I would like to make. Oh, I do see Atoya's hand up.
You guys hear me?
I'm hearing you now, yes.
Okay, so my apologies first. My internet is going in and out, and I'm actually straddling 2 workshops at the very same time.
Oh, no.
The question is this. I noticed that we have the email addresses, and that goes out for approval and all these other questions that we may have. However, I was wondering, is it possible if we have to do like a quick powwow, so to speak, like if there's something burning that we need to address, is it possible for us to have like a quick Teams meeting, like organize a quick Teams meeting or Zoom meeting with your team? Well, for you and Karen in particular, because I'm just thinking ahead that my team, we had to redo a few stuff with our communications and visibility plan that I'm pretty sure you guys will want approval of before we move forward. So in something like that, would it be easier for us to just have a quick kind of powwow just to see where we are and what it is we are planning to do and get a quick response at that particular point in time? Or is it just strictly on an email basis?
Thanks for that question, Atoya, and that's a good question. Yes, I mean, as far as is humanly possible, yes, once we are available, we'd absolutely jump on a quick call and give you feedback. The idea here is to give feedback as soon as possible. And if it's easier, let's say you have a number of things that need to be approved and it needs to be done quickly. Once our schedules do allow, yes, we will certainly make ourselves available for quick calls. Any other questions before I move on? Okay, so the last point then is content for the app and social media. So we know that, of course, in your communications and visibility plans, these would have been done months and months ago before your project even started. And again, it's the nature of projects, the nature of communications. You start doing something and all of a sudden there are stories to tell and there are little things that you can share, but it's not enough for a press release. That's fine. We don't want to lose the opportunity to share this information. Again, it may not be sufficient or long enough for a press release or a blog or a radio interview, but it doesn't mean that it's any less newsworthy or interesting. So for us, we are happy to share. We do have the ResMBid app. We are troubled. It is working, but we are, in terms of it is functional and live. And if you download it now, you will see that we have been posting, but we have had some issues and we are troubleshooting those issues with people getting notifications, but the content is there. And we also do share it to our social media platform. So if you let's say you go collect trash from somewhere, or there's any kind of visibility opportunity, you're free to also, on that feedback email, you can send us a picture, a caption, the project, and we can just kind of quickly come up with something that can also be used on our on the app as well as social media. So again, don't be afraid to to try to figure out what is newsworthy, just send it to us, and I'm certain that we will find a way to display it on any of our platforms, including the app. And this is actually where I stop for any questions and answers at this point. I do see a hand up. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, all. With regards to the slogan, as far as, Resident Bid Support Project and what you spoke about earlier, I just wanted to run a narrative by you and see whether it's something that is acceptable as is.
Sure.
So, so I'm the project officer for the Turks and Caicos Islands Sustainable Energy Project. And in our communications, we have recognized the need to include resident bids. So we have the name of the project as the Turks and Caicos Islands Resident Bid Sustainable Energy Project. Does that sound like we have covered all the areas you spoke about, or are we? Should there be something that should be added or removed from that slogan?
Okay, so
TCI
let's
Resident Bid.
say you use that in a sentence.
Yeah, so we identified the project as the Turks and Caicos Islands Resident Bid Sustainable Energy Project.
Okay, so what I would suggest is Turks and Caicos Sustainable Energy Project supported by ResMBid. Yeah,
Okay.
because again, when you say ResMBid project, it's not ours. As much as we would like to claim that we have done 47 projects, we have not. So I would suggest you again, this is your opportunity, all 47 of you, this is your opportunity to take the glory. So do call it your project, and then of course indicate it is supported by us and funded by the EU.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Again, if there's a question that comes, oh, I do see one from Melanie. Melanie, yes, you did miss it, but that's quite fine. What we will do is in the thank you email that we send after all of these workshops, it will include not just the recording of this session, but all of the documents that I would have referenced. So the EU, what we call the Bible, the large EU visibility guidelines document, as well as the ResMBid brand guidelines document, and the logos of all of the different formats, color, black and white, AI, vector, whatever, they'll all be there in the email that everyone will get after this. Okay, great. So I have finished early. Yay. So what we can do is we can either just continue and go straight into Karen, or unless everybody wants to take a 15-minute break and then we start at 11, I'm completely open. Okay, well, we have one that says, please continue. Again, if there are questions that you remember while Karen is presenting on anything I would have said, and then of course what Karen will present on, please feel free to ask. Okay, so we have a request for 5 minutes. Okay, so let's take 5 minutes, stretch your legs, get some coffee, bathroom break, and we'll be back at 10:50.
Good morning, everyone. Are we back and ready to go into part 2? Are we all here? I think some people actually left to take a quick break, but I want to make sure that we're all here and ready to go. I see Sabine, so I think we're all back. Okay, guys, well, a lot of, I'm not hearing, are you guys hearing me? Okay.
Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. Thank you. As Nisa said, I am Karen Mahey, Senior Communications and Visibility Specialist with the ResMBid program. Nisa did cover quite a lot. I am going to go into a little bit more of the, technical side of things. And in a lot of cases, I know I'm reminding you of stuff you already know already. Just putting some things out there in terms of how we do things, and therefore inspiring you along the way. It is going to seem at the outset as if it's a long presentation, but trust me, it really isn't. There are a lot of topics to cover, but they're just synopses of each area. Feel free to jump in at any time. This is a discussion, not a lecture. And I really do appreciate interactive sessions more than anything else. Nisa and Dante will monitor the chat and hands going up in the air so I can pause and respond to anyone that may have questions, comments, suggestions, etc. So let's get into it. Nisa, seeing my screen? Perfect. Okay, so today, as I said, it looks like a lot at the outset, but it really is just short synopses on each area. I'm going to talk a little bit about the importance of traditional and social media in today's digital landscape, definition and overview of traditional and social media, how to leverage social media for professional success, how to integrate traditional and social media into your projects, how to monitor and measure media impact, the why and how of press releases. I will do acknowledgement of donor and partners a little different to Nisa, television and radio interviews, what makes a great photo, and get into ROVIP a little bit as well. Okay, so I do know that, you know, the trend, what's hot and what's happening is to take advantage of all things social media. But I have found that especially in the Caribbean, traditional media in certain jurisdictions still is very powerful. Certainly in Barbados, where I reside, we do a significant mix of both. My mom, for example, must read a daily newspaper, must watch the news every night. Me, I rely on social media for my news. So there are those audiences that spread across all demographics that you still have to touch on depending on the demographic of your individual projects. So this end, in today's digital landscape, both traditional and social media play crucial roles in communication, information sharing, and influencing public opinion. Understanding the importance of these media channels is essential for professionals for several reasons. As I spoke of before, broad reach and audience engagement, credibility and trust, real-time updates and news dissemination, targeted marketing and audience segmentation, where I just spoke about the difference between my mom and myself in terms of how we get our news, would be an example of target marketing and audience segmentation. I am not going to go into each of the details because it would really drag this presentation out longer than it needs to be. And I know in each of these areas, I'm speaking to persons who already know, but I will be sharing the presentation with you guys to go into the details that fall underneath. So just to extend a little further, two-way communication and engagement, amplification and virality. So, you know, when the young people talk about it went viral, you know, that's a big thing. It is very, 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 very prevalent in the social media space. Once your post goes viral, you definitely have hit a huge amount of persons. Data analytics and insights. And throughout this presentation, you would hear me speak about analytics a lot because I firmly believe in measuring, well, first of all, monitoring and measuring anything that we do. It is easy to say, oh, it's working, and that's just you pulling that out of the sky that it's working. But if you actually go to analyze and measure, you would realize that sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And that leads to tweaking your methods and approach in certain areas. So by understanding the importance of traditional and social media, professionals can harness the power of these channels to enhance their visibility, engage with their audience, and achieve their business objectives in today's digital landscape. So traditional media refers to the conventional forms of mass communication that have been in existence before the advent of digital technologies. It encompasses various channels and platforms through which information and entertainment are disseminated to a wide audience. So an overview of traditional media would be television, radio, newspapers, magazines, print advertising, outdoor advertising, and direct mail. Now, I would always use Barbados as an example. We are a fairly sizable and progressive jurisdiction, and we still employ all of these traditional media as well as social media, depending on your product, your service, your initiative, your project. So traditional media still has a wide reach and has been a primary source of information and entertainment for many, many years. While digital media has gained prominence, traditional media still holds relevance, especially for reaching certain and specific demographics, older audiences, and areas with limited internet access. Professionals can leverage traditional media to build credibility, reach a broad audience, and engage with communities through storytelling, interviews, features, and advertising. Social media, on the other hand, refers to digital platforms and online services that facilitate the creation, sharing, and exchange of user-generated content, ideas, information, and interactions within virtual communities. It enables individuals, organizations, and businesses to connect, engage, and communicate with others on a global scale. So we're looking at social networking sites like Facebook and Google+, microblogging platforms like Twitter, media sharing networks like Instagram and Snapchat, professional networking platforms like LinkedIn, video sharing platforms like YouTube and Vimeo, blogging platforms like WordPress and Blogger, and discussion forums and communities like Reddit and Quora. Social media has revolutionized communication. I think we can all agree to that, connecting people from diverse backgrounds and facilitating instant sharing of information and opinions. It has become a powerful tool for businesses and professionals to share their brand, engage with audiences, promote products or services, gather feedback, and stay updated on industry trends. The dynamic nature of social media platforms, with their emphasis on user-generated content and real-time interactions, has transformed the way we in general interact and share content online. But how do we bring them both together? How do we use the perfect mix and the perfect balance of traditional media and social media? I think before I go into this, I would say, oops, I see something in the chat, I believe. Okay, no, not for me. I think that it depends on your jurisdiction. It depends on your demographics. And I think that you have to be the chefs of that mix. How much traditional media you use combined with how much social media you use is something very specific to each jurisdiction. And it is something that really needs to be studied, appreciated, and then the perfect blend mixed up together and shared with the public. So here are just some suggestions that could help in this regard. Leveraging social media for professional success involves utilizing these platforms strategically to enhance your project's brand, expand your network, and achieve your project's goals. So you need to define your goals, select relevant platforms, optimize your profiles. And by this, I mean craft a compelling and professional profile across all social media platforms on which you choose to be present. Share valuable content, engage and interact. Actively engage with your audience by responding to comments, answering questions, and participating in discussions. We have found this very, very important to do, and it creates followers that stay. Be authentic and transparent. Use visuals effectively. Stay consistent. Again, we tend to come out of the gates fast, and we're posting and we're posting and we're posting, and then there's a lull. As soon as there's a lull, you lose followers, and to get them back again is twice as hard as when you got them on in the first place. So you really want to stay consistent with your messaging and posting. Monitor and analyze. You're going to hear me say that right throughout, because I believe it is very important to monitor and analyze what you're doing to ensure that it is actually working and reaching your target audience. Network and collaborate with those that are in similar industries or have similar projects as you do, or just network and collaborate with the rest of the OCTs to see what they're doing. What are their best practices? What's working for Aruba may not be necessarily working for Bonaire, may not work at all for Curacao. So that networking and collaboration can go a long way in achieving success. Remember, social media success takes time and effort. Consistency, authenticity, and providing value are key elements to leveraging social media effectively for professional growth and success. So I was speaking about integrating traditional and social media. By integrating traditional and social media, you can create a cohesive and impactful communication strategy. You need to understand your audience, which is something that I keep repeating, as well as measuring and analyzing results. You need to maintain consistent branding. There should be a cross promotion where you use traditional media to promote your social media presence and vice versa. Content repurposing. So what you use on Facebook can be repurposed for LinkedIn, can be repurposed for Instagram. You just tweak to suit your platform, yet staying true to the message and the content. User-generated content, where you're going to incorporate user-generated content from social media into your traditional media channels. Social media monitoring and traditional media insights. There's that monitoring again. Influencer partnerships. I know in each of your jurisdictions, there are those persons who have the most followers, are wildly popular. People follow them just because of who they are. Sometimes creating partnerships with these persons can further entrench your message and get it to a wider audience. So it's something to consider. And usually these persons will do this sort of work for very small stipends or just for the additional popularity and followers. Adapt and evolve. Stay updated with emerging trends, technologies, and media consumption patterns. And that is very important where social media is concerned. We can't just hop on each of the platforms and throw a post out there and just leave it and have no clue what happens to it after. And we also need to be very aware of what else is happening in the digital world so that we stay updated with emerging trends, consumption patterns, and technologies. Of course.
Karen, sorry to cut you. We have two questions in the chat.
Sure.
So one is there a voluntary shared list of or documents of sorts with the contact info of other resident supported projects for collaboration across organizations and initiatives? Sabine, I will answer that one. Excuse me. If you go on to, and I will put the link in the chat, if you go on to the RESNBID website on our resources page, there is something called, it's quite new, so it's a great and timely question. It's called the RESNBID project fiches, where every project under the umbrella, RESNBID umbrella, all 47 are represented there. So you can, and under each area of focus, so resilience, sustainable energy, or marine biodiversity. So you can actually go onto that. And you can see what the projects are about, and of course, who is the implementing partner behind the project. And if then, because we won't share, we'll have a general list that we share everybody's contact info with. But if you look at that and you do see, okay, hey, this looks like this is a cool project in Curacao or one in Aruba or Bonaire, whatever that you want to be in touch with, then you can reach out to us and ask us for the contact information, or we put you in touch with that person. But that document on the website does give not just, it doesn't just list the projects, but it of course tells you the country, what the project is about and what it hopes to achieve. So you can really use that to determine, the suitability of contacting this person. I hope that answers the question. And then the next question, Karen, I'll let you take this one. Says, this is from Climate Education. I'm sorry, I'm talking to you all and my camera is off. How rude of me. It says, hi, so if we want to avoid a lull, if we have lots of content to approve ahead of time, is there a time frame that we can use for every post so that we can post constantly, have to wait every 5 to 10 days?
Well, Nisa, considering that you lead on approvals,
yes, no
I would want to believe this is your question.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm not sure who is the person for climate education, but so we, and just as we're on social media, to be clear, we don't need to approve every single post. Because, I mean, some people have a lot, some people they do daily. For example, like Branchies, for example, I know does every day they post, which is great, but we don't need to approve that. But what you can do is, if you know, let's say the Red Cross, for example, I believe in Montserrat, they sent us quite a few just to make sure that they had the structure of their graphics correct, to make sure that the logos were correct, and once that is fine, then using that structure, you can go ahead. I would have said in my bits that if it's really, really helpful. Even though we don't have to approve everything, it is really helpful for us to track and share. Also, it's really important. Once you tag ResMBid, and then depending on the post, and use hashtag ResMBid, so that at any point we can come back and find you. So if you do have a lot, if you could send us an example of, let's say, maybe 3 different kinds of things that you want to post, so that we can give the approval for that. And then, once we've done that and kind of figure out what the standard is, and you can go ahead and post and make sure you tag and hashtag.
Thank you, Nisa. Yeah, I wanted to reinforce that during this section actually about tagging ResMBid. You can also tag the European Union and tag Expertise France. That opens up your audience, and it also goes a long way in pleasing the donors. They like to see the projects posting and such like. In addition to which, as Nisa pointed out, we did have Montserrat that supplied us with a whole host of potential posts, and as did Cayman Islands, for example. And one thing you can do is also create a calendar for perhaps a week, 2 weeks, whatever works for you. We take a look at that, and once we are fine, as Nisa said, with the general structure and information and your intention, then we do not certainly need to see every single social media post, or we will never get anything done if everyone is posting daily as well as we are posting daily and such like. So there's that. Can I move on, or are there?
Okay, I just see one more question. Once you tag them, will it be shared? Yeah, sure. Once we receive the tag, where we are happy to share. Again, please bear with us. It really is just Karen and I, but we are bringing on someone at the beginning of July, and her primary role is going to be social media. So there'll be a lot more activity on our end. And that, of course, includes sharing. So I just want to make one more point on that. As you all know, we were supposed to have this session, I think 2 months ago, but actually the EU changed some of the rules, so we had to stop, pump the brakes, because we wanted to make sure that we share the accurate information with you guys. That being said, I know a lot of people have produced a lot of things, press releases, and especially on social media, and would not have had the opportunity to hear this. So that being said, please, if you can, it would be really helpful if you are able to retroactively tag us. Just go back into your Facebook, Instagram, whatever, hit the edit button and just add the ResMBid tag and hashtag, so that when this person does come on in July, she's really able to get a clearer sense of just, just how much the projects have been active, which of course we'd be happy to share with the EU as well, and with the European Union, because of course this is really important, not just to them, but to us. And again, it would also really help us to see, who are the shining stars and those who may need some help, and we're happy to intervene at that point, but we can only do it if you, make that really available to us. And one of those ways is going back and retroactively tagging and using the ResMBid hashtag, which I'm going to put in the chat right now. So Karen, back over to you.
Thank you. I wanted to add to that once you at ResMBid or at the European Union, we will be immediately, the post will be immediately shared on our various platforms once you at us. I think what I will do is also share with you the hashtags and the actual names, so that you can at us, at them, and we can all be sharing between each other. So to close off the section, by integrating traditional and social media, you can reach a much wider audience, reinforce your messaging, and create a unified brand experience. Again, Remember to continuously evaluate and refine your approach based on audience feedback and evolving media trends. So I keep saying it, but I'm not going to dwell. It is just really critical that you monitor and measure. So monitoring and measuring media impact is essential to evaluate the effectiveness of your media campaigns, assess audience engagement, and make informed decisions for future strategies. By effectively monitoring and measuring media impact, you can gain valuable insights into the effectiveness of your media efforts, identify areas for improvement, and refine your strategies to achieve better results in reaching and engaging with your target audiences. Okay, just checking in. We good to go? Yes. All right. So NISA would have gotten into the press release, topic already. Okay, Stefan. Sure.
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to say something again on the social media parts that we just went through. Thank you so much for all the tips, first of all. What I'm missing, though, as a sort of a hybrid between traditional media and social media, is a newsletter, an email newsletter, which we at the Queen Concatcher Curacao have started. And the nice thing about a newsletter is, I also work in marketing, is you get very genuine engagement with your audience. So people are very well, if they subscribe, they're very willing to also engage with stuff you share in that newsletter. So that's just a general tip I also want to give the rest of the audience. And I can share a link in the chat if you want to see our newsletter. And if you have any, questions or you need any tips, I can also help with that, or I don't know what the Resembit team thinks of that, but that's something I just wanted to add.
Thank you, Stefan. And this is very timely as well, because we shared our first quarterly newsletter at the end of the first quarter of this year. We're coming up on the second newsletter dissemination, which would be on Friday, June 30th, actually. I will ask Nisa or Dante if they can share the link to that newsletter, because it did feature a number of projects that are under implementation. And we would love to put everyone that's here and whoever else you recommend on our mailing list as well. We virtually used our mailing list that we currently have when we sent this out, but we have been adding to that mailing list as we get names, so we can make sure that everyone gets it. And I totally agree with what you said, Stefan. It is a wonderful vehicle. It is very interactive. You do get a good response. We got really good responses to our first newsletter. And it doesn't necessarily have to be long and drawn out. Ours is just short, snappy pieces, giving a snapshot of what's happening. So
yeah, yeah, so I sort of sell it as, get a little bit of more insights compared to the traditional media stuff. And that's what gets people interested. And that's where you get that genuine sort of engagement with them. So I really like using it. And I also wanted to ask Resembit, I sent Nisa an email already about it, if there are any email addresses, or if I can sort of send the link to our newsletter to you guys, which you share. I don't want to how would I say that? Violate any privacy guidelines.
Stefan, I really want to answer that. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I don't need,
send a link to us.
Yeah, I don't need a list. If you guys just sort of send it out there, that would be great for us.
Okay, great. Yeah, because that was the issue that we are French. As you all know, implemented by Expertise France, and to know the French is to know that their privacy laws are quite intense. So I had to get the clearance to see if we could do that. But the much easier thing to do is send us the link. Perfect. And we will distribute. Yeah, perfect.
Also,
and again, that goes for anyone. If you do have Sabine, I know you all do blogs. We are happy to also share that in our kind of because we do a letter from the director, and Karen, you know, she has the newsletter that goes even, you know, broader throughout the whole Caribbean. So we're also, we're happy to share that as well. So thanks for
and
that, Stefan.
Yeah, the analytics of it are also, you know, the insights are great. You see how many clicks, how many opens. So also, you know, considering what you said earlier and in the part before this about analytics, that's also great. So I won't bother, I won't hold you guys up any longer.
Yeah.
No, Stefan, this was great. Can you tell me how regular does your newsletter come out?
We try to do it once a month, and we started out with once every 2 weeks just to get a little bit more engagement and subscribes, but now we aim at once a month.
Okay, perfect. And also, do you use MailChimp?
Yes.
Okay, because I was also going to let the audience know that MailChimp gives really good analytical tools. You really get a good sense of who is engaging, who's
Yeah.
unsubscribing, who's hopping on, who's new. So it's fantastic. Who opens each and every
Yeah.
item and such like. So the recommendation would be to the team that if you do embark on a newsletter, you consider MailChimp because the analytics are exceptionally strong.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Stefan, thank you so much. I really appreciated your intervention.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you as well.
Thanks. All right. Okay, so as I said, Nisa had gone into the press release topic. I'm just going to delve a little deeper. This is perhaps the longest, this and Rovit, the longest part of my presentation, but because Nisa did touch on very critical and important elements, I don't think I need to go into the detail. What I will do alongside sharing this presentation with the team is include a newsletter template that we already do have in our arsenal alongside my presentation, so that you have a very easy to follow template and guide. So the purpose of a press release is to share newsworthy information with the media and by extension, the public. It serves as a communication tool for projects to disseminate official announcements, news, or updates about their projects, events, achievements, or other relevant topics. Overall, the purpose of a press release is to strategically share news and information, attract media attention, shape public perception, and support the overall goals and objectives of the projects. So the structure is well known. It is not something that each of you here do not know. I know that you know it. So as I said, I am just, you know, gentle reminders. The one thing that I would say, though, while variations are possible, there are common elements that should be followed, which makes it very easy for journalists and media professionals when receiving your press release. Because once again, it's easy to issue a press release, but you actually want the media to issue, to rebroadcast, to reprint. You want that. You don't want your press release just sitting down in their inboxes. So as soon as they can identify, you know, who it's from, what we're about, which includes ResinBid's logo and the organization's logo, address, phone number, email, and website in your header, then you have your release date, which should include for immediate release if the intended information is to be published immediately. Generally speaking, every release, every press release I write has for immediate release in right underneath the header. And then you want a concise and attention-grabbing headline that summarizes the main news or announcement. It should be compelling and pique the interest of your reader. But the first reader is going to be that journalist or media professional. And in order for them to take your press release seriously and do the necessary, that headline is key and critical to attracting their attention. The dateline, which consists of the capital city and country. So you would have your date, and then you would have Bridgetown, Barbados, and the date of the press release. The opening paragraph, which should provide a brief overview of the news or announcement. It should answer the key questions: who, what, when, why, and how. And this section should capture the readers' in attention and encourage them to continue reading. This is where you would want to include the project value and you know, exactly what the project is doing and what the key details are. The body of the press release expands on the information provided in the lead paragraph. It should provide more details, quotes, statistics, and any supporting information to strengthen the news or announcement. Each paragraph should focus on a specific aspect and flow logically.
Karen, if you don't mind, I just want to share my screen really quickly just to show these things in motion.
Sure.
Right. So as Karen would have said, just the title, you have the ResEmbed 3 million, you take the value of it, the date, and of course the location. And even if people were to just read the first paragraph or the first two paragraphs, they quickly get a sense of what is happening. So I just wanted to show exactly what Karen was talking about in real time.
Thank you, Nisa. So we spoke about supporting details, quotes, the boilerplate. This is what, and I do believe there was a question earlier. I forget who it came from, but the boilerplate is your paragraph that says everything that you want to say about the program in one paragraph, and each of you know it well. ResEmbed is a 47 project program funded by the European Union and implemented by Expertise France, the development cooperation agency of the government of France, and supports sustainable human development efforts in 12 Caribbean overseas countries.
Karen, you need to reshare your screen because I think when I shared it, it cut
you
you off.
bumped
Sorry
me
about
off.
that. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's cool. Am I back?
Yeah.
Perfect. And we know who the 12 OCTs are. So Nisa and I go back and forth on this, and I am not even afraid to put it in this forum. The boilerplate is typically placed at the end of the press release and remains consistent across different releases. That is the truth. However, as Nisa pointed out in the press release that she actually showed, you would see that Nisa had started putting the boilerplate in the second or third paragraphs of the press release, with the intention that if you do not read beyond the second or third paragraph, you get in one paragraph who ResEmbed is, where it's at, who it's supported by, who it's implemented by, and where the projects are located. We go back and forth on this. I still believe a boilerplate needs to be at the foot of a press release. I really do believe that we should be focusing on the important salient points about about the project in the first three paragraphs, and that is enough to keep the attention of the reader, because each of the projects are doing exceptionally. Each of the projects that are under implementation are doing exceptionally well. So contact information, you want to reiterate the contact information provided in the header at the end as well. So you're going to include a designated media contact person's name. So within your project, who is the person that should the media require more information? Who should they reach out to with a contact number and an email address? And this section should also indicate that journalists can feel free to reach out for further information and/or interviews. Indicate the end of the press release with a series of 3 hashtags or the traditional press release notation of -30-, which says to a journalist immediately, it's the end of the press release. So just to note, the press release should be concise, typically not exceeding 2 pages. Some of you get carried away because you're very excited about your project and give us 3 to 4 pages. We want to stay away from that because journalists are not going to read beyond usually 1.5 pages, but we can stretch it to 2 pages. Use clear and concise language. Avoid jargon at all times or technical terms whenever possible. You want to make this very easily digestible information for the journalist and by extension for the general public, because the one thing that an editor of a newspaper, radio station, whomsoever may be, you don't want to place the burden of editing on them to make your technical jargon easy for their audience to understand and grasp. Also, please proofread the press releases before distribution for grammar, spelling, and formatting. We see this every day, every single day, and we appeal to you. Please, please, please proofread. And the author of the press release should not be the person that way too long. So give it to someone else to read, let them go through it, and then send it to us. And then we get ready for distribution. Any questions? Okay, perfect. So NISA did touch on this as well, acknowledgement of donors and partners, and NISA actually did dig deep into this. So essentially, I have just, once again, this is the paragraph at the top, the boilerplate, and this is how, the main area where you acknowledge the donors and keep it consistent. And of course, the big red arrow points to the band, the donor band at the bottom. And NISA went into details about this. This is very critical. So you can either use the ResinBid logo on its own at the top of whatever document, video, whatever, but the band at the bottom, that is acceptable. Or you can use the ResinBid logo with the logos attached at the bottom, as is on the far right of the presentation. And that is also totally acceptable. We do recognize, however, that the secondary proposition, which is the ResinBid logo with the donor logos, does take up quite a bit of real estate in collateral, in communications collateral. So breaking it up with the ResinBid logo at the top and the donor band at the bottom is actually an ideal and very acceptable route to go. Okay, so we move on to television and radio interviews and staying on message. So this is a very interesting area, and we want you to be doing more and more of these in your individual countries, but staying on message is key. And also how you get past a journalist digging into areas that they should not be digging into with you. But most journalists will take the opportunity while they're interviewing you to ask other questions that do not pertain to what the interview is about. So I'm just going to quickly walk you through the key points on staying on message during interviews. It's crucial to ensure effective communication and convey your intended key points. Remember, staying on message doesn't mean disregarding the interviewer's questions or sounding overly scripted. It's about strategically delivering your key messages while maintaining a natural and engaging conversation. Practice, preparation, and adaptability are key to effectively staying on message during interviews. So I wanted to share some key strategies with you to help. Prepare and rehearse. And again, when I say rehearse, just know what you have. Don't commit it to memory. Just have an idea of what you want to say next, point after point after point. So you're not fumbling, you're not mumbling. Know your audience. Always know your audience. Always, always know your audience. Stay focused. During the interview, actively listen to the interviewer's questions and focus on staying on the message. Use bridging techniques. And this takes me right back to what I said at the start of this section. Bridging techniques can help you smooth transition back to your key messages when faced with unrelated or challenging questions. And these do come. So these techniques include phrases such as, that's an interesting point, but let me highlight, and you go back to your message. Or, I understand your concern, however, and go back to your message. And what's important to note is, and you go back to your message. Always take it back to your message. Do not let a journalist take you off of staying on message. That's their job. Your job is to stay on message. So repetition with variation. Another key to reinforcing your key messages is to vary your wording and delivery to keep the information fresh and engaging. Be succinct in everything. Keep your responses concise and focused. Droning on, going way over, and where you can see the person's eyes actually glazing over. That's not what you want for your project or for yourself. So keep it concise, keep it focused. Bridge your messages. Again, I speak about bridging. Look for opportunities to naturally bridge to your key messages during the interview. And use song bites. Craft memorable song bites or quotable statements that capture the essence of your key messages. And this goes back to preparing and rehearsing so that you have in your head exactly what you know you want to say, and also what you know are key points for the journalist, what you would like to hear out there about your project. Those are your memorable song bites. Stay calm and composed, always. Never let them see you sweat, and practice active listening. Actively listen to the interviewer's questions and cues. So I really hope that this has helped with future radio and television interviews. Okay, and what makes a great photo? Nisa went into here as well, but I'm just going to go over it very quickly. Remember, the goal of a great photo for media is to capture attention, engage the audience, and effectively support your message. By considering these factors, you can select or create photos that enhance your media presence and effectively communicate your story. A great photo for media captures attention, conveys a story, and effectively communicates your message. So your photo should be relevant, visually impactful, emotional, and storytelling, clarity, and very focused. It should be authentic. So genuine and candid shots can resonate more with the audience than staged or overly posed images. Composition and framing, again, very important. Now, diversity and inclusivity, this is very important, especially across the OCTs where we have different cultures, different races, a myriad of different, elements that make up this wonderfully complex region of the OCTs. So you want to represent diversity and inclusivity in your photos to ensure broad appeal and reflect the reality of your audience in each of your jurisdictions. Uniqueness and freshness, caption and context. A great photo is always complemented by a well-written caption or context. And this is something that we have to keep putting out there, because sometimes we just get photos. And we just get photos, and we don't get the context, we don't get captions, but a great photo is definitely complemented by a well-written caption or context. And you can keep this very short and very sweet. It does not have to be a long diatribe at all. And of course, high resolution. In a
Karen,
lot
you
of
have a
it.
question?
Sure.
You have a question, and it comes from Robbie. Should we include a photo in the body of the press release or separate?
Separate, please. The caption should be at the bottom of the press release. So you would put literally caption, colon, and include your caption at the bottom of the press release, but always attach your photo separately, as embedding it in a Word document or whatnot will lose resolution, will lose quality. Can I get a thumbs up? Did I answer your question? Cool. And again, on high resolution, you want your photos to be high resolution, because the more that they are used and transferred, you lose resolution. Most phones do give very high resolution photos. I don't know if my colleague Dante wants to come in and talk about resolution of photos, but of course, if you are in doubt, you can always reach out to us and we can give you any information you require on ensuring high resolution photos. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we come now to the ResMed OCT visit.
Karen, you have a question. Can we, from Eric Salamanca, can we put the caption in the photo?
I want to say no. I would prefer that you didn't. Primarily, this is going to cause problems and we want to keep it uniform. So if you just before you end your press release, you indicate caption in capital letters with a colon, and you have your caption there and your photo attached. I do believe this is the foolproof way to ensure that we have a good quality photo and we have an appropriate caption. Does that work for you?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. My just concern is if there are several pictures, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we put there's a possibility that the caption might interchange. But I understand your point. Yeah, for editing, etc. I agree. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eric.
And one more from Robbie. If we are submitting to a TV station, how would we include branding in a video, or would we? Do you mean, Robbie, do you mean, let's say footage from a press conference or something? Because if so, then no. That is just kind of a real-time activity. But the branding, it's if you do video production about a press conference or about the activity and you actually edit and put a video together, then is when you would include the branding. So and more to that point about let's say you are just sending video coverage of a press release, this, because it will not be branded, this is why it is important to have branded signage, so that when you do send it to a press release, whether it is the backdrop of the speakers who are at the head table, a pull-up banner, we have gotten approvals requested for a branded tablecloth, which is a great idea. This is exactly why I'm glad you asked this question, because this is exactly why you do need branded material, because very rarely are you going to have the opportunity to edit and put together something. So as soon as TV station or whoever captures it, they should immediately be able to see with your branding what is it that they're capturing and who is hosting and who is responsible, whether it's ResMBID, European Union, all the people at the bottom of the strip. So great question. Thanks.
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what Nisa said. So where there is an actual video that you're going to put together, you will put the ResMBID with donors logos at the top and at the bottom of that video, because it's a production. But if, as Nisa just clearly outlined, if you are having a press conference, a presentation, a ceremony, an event, that you have a banner that includes ResMBID and its donors branding on it, so that when media and assigned photographers, etc., are taking photos, that the branding becomes part of the photo. It actually becomes a part of the photo, and therein lies the branding. So yes. Eric?
I have a very, very short question about the banner. And if we want to put the Turks and Caicos flag and the ResMBID banner, or whatever you call that, where will the ResMBID stay, left or right?
No, I think the question is, where does your government want their flag first and foremost? And then we go on the opposite side. The government speaks to that first and foremost, not us. So if the government wants the right, we go left. If the government wants the left, we go right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, Eric. You're muted.
That's a really important point. Remember that we, for all intents and purposes, ResMBID, the EU, we are guests in these countries. So if there, and I know there are some government-led projects, so do remember that you will take priority. So as Karen said, it is whatever the government requests, whether it is left or right, it'll generally be on the left, ResMBID on the right. But again, that is their call. You follow their instruction, and then thereafter you follow our guidelines. But when it comes to government communications, that will always take precedence over even the EU. So again, we are guests, and we thank you for welcoming us into your home, but that the government of whatever country will always take priority.
Thank you, Nisa. Okay, if there are no further questions, the ResMBID OCT Visibility Program, affectionately known as ROVIP, has become the main vehicle of communications outreach and visibility from ResMBID on behalf of the OCTs. So this is going to be, the ROVIP acronym is something you are going to be hearing very much frequently, repeatedly coming up. I just wanted everyone to get an idea of what this is, because this involves each and every jurisdiction and each and every project. There have been some questions recently about the line item that you see on your budgetary sheet as far as ROVIP is concerned. So I'm going to just let you know a little bit of that. But so I'm going to, this is just a general overview. We are currently in communications and visibility at ResMBID. We're working on a fact sheet for Rovit that will have all of the salient points and important points documented on one sheet so that you could quickly refer to it. But I am taking this opportunity to do a brief overview to give you a good idea of what Rovit is all about. Okay, so Rovit is managed directly by ResimBid, and it is financed by a visibility budget line in project budgets with the focus of conveying the human interest element of every single project. So when you see that budget line, a lot of people keep saying, well, can we use it? Can we use it to do our videos? No, you cannot use it to do your videos. We are actually doing an entire series of videos on each and every project. Now, a project may do one video or several videos may come out of one project. We are going to be meeting with every project and talking to every project in great detail about the achievements and the impact the project has had on its country and its people, hence the human interest element of every project. And from there, with you and with planning with you, we're going to determine what is the storyline that we're going to do each of these Rovit videos pertaining to your project. So how will the project be, how would Rovit be managed? ResimBid will focus on the sourcing and telling of stories coming out of the OCTs. And we're going to be doing this in partnership with you. Everything that we do is going to be in partnership with you. You manage the projects on a daily basis, so you would best know what we should be focusing on and the stories that we should be telling. This content will both be produced in conjunction and shared with individual project implementing agencies to ensure accuracy and the spirit of the OCTs. Program's dissemination outlook will center on a broader network. So we want these stories now to come to Barbados and Trinidad and Jamaica and Guyana and the OECS and CARICOM. We want the rest of the Caribbean and by extension, the world to know about the OCTs and these amazing projects that have been implemented and its impact on country and people. The European. Somebody muted me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. I think the same happened to me.
Oh my gosh, okay. So we will also disseminate these videos through the European Union and.
No, I'm muted. I can hear you now.
Okay. And other European and key stakeholders, that would be the dissemination, the lines of dissemination. So we really plan for these videos to go far and wide. And as I mentioned before several times, content will be based on the stories emerging from the projects. Robbie? Hi, Robbie.
Yes, it took me a second. I got to reorient myself with all the buttons. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thank you for mentioning CARICOM. I appreciate that. And, you know, and everybody in the Caribbean, we're planning on presenting some of our results and the project at GCFI this year, you know, and, you know, all the Caribbean nations will be there. And since the OCTs make up about half of those, I think that's a really good place to get that. We're planning on presenting, giving multiple presentations about what happened with our project and using these science books, these science biology curriculum written in Haitian Creole and Papiamento in their respective locations. But we also want to, if we were able to, we want to present a video there for the Cinefish event. Are there any guidelines about presenting a video like that and our presentations in general for branding and things?
So Robbie, a video of that nature will be, I imagine, you're talking about an overall video that encapsulates everything about the project, and that's fine. We, as I said before, we would want the ResimBid and donors logo up front and at the end of the video. And you can do your video, you do have a budget for that. It is not the same as the Rovit budget, but you do have room in your budget for that. I'm very happy to hear about your intention of presenting to the wider Caribbean region because, to be fair, one thing that we have definitely discovered is those in the wider Caribbean are very sketchy on what they know and understand about the OCT. So ROVIP is one of the ways that we are using to take the OCTs and its projects to them. Nisa, I don't know if you wanted to add anything where Robbie's question is concerned about Brandon. Robbie, several of the projects have done videos on their own already. And as I said, this is your project, you own it. So do your video, just give us some credit up top and at the end.
Yeah, I think once you are able to see the brand, the CNV guidelines book and the EU visibility guidelines book, it tells you exactly where to do that. Usually we keep it on screen for 2 or 3 seconds before and at the end and at the top. I will say though that if I would love the opportunity to speak with you offline, because I mean that is, I think you at your team attending this this event and presenting is a good opportunity for ROVIP, because of course we can help you tell the story of your project in the broader Caribbean context. So I don't know, Karen, if do we want to meet with ask Robbie to stay on just so we get some maybe set up a meeting, a quick call, or Robbie, you can email us and we will do the same. But I think it's a great question, because it's a great example of how we can take, you know, Robbie, you all are going to produce your video, but then we can look to see, okay, if we can get, I'm not sure where the event is, but if we can get a team on the ground to film, we can do an even bigger story about your project in a regional context.
Robbie, can you tell us when this when is the event?
Well, the GCFI meeting is I think either the 1st or 2nd week in November. And I'd be happy to meet with you guys after it. I don't want to take up everybody else's time with a conversation that maybe we should just have.
Okay, no, I would love to set up a meeting with the 3 of us, not immediately after, but definitely since it's in November, we do have a little bit of time, but maybe early next week we can meet with you. So we will communicate with you directly on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you as well, Robbie. Okay, so the main objective of this program of ROVIP is the recognition of and showcasing the accomplishments of the OCTs through world-class communications products. Due recognition of the generosity of the EU will be ensured in line with the EU visibility guidelines. And of course, Nisa would have spent a good portion of time going through that, and she will share the guidelines with you all after this session. And the other objectives are visibility for the EU citizen, showing tangible solidarity with the Caribbean OCTs, harmonization of messaging between all grant projects and ensuring maximum regional impact of communication and visibility activities, a uniform look and feel to all outputs, a regional rather than national lens, and providing capacity strengthening on CNV activities. So we have developed a brand persona, a brand tone, and a brand look and feel for ROVIP. So as a person, ROVIP is seen as a solution provider who is insightful, helpful, impactful, thoughtful, meaningful, intentional, reliable, wise, genuine, and caring. Having a unique and consistent brand persona helps with recognition and engagement. So the goal is to create a personality that is authentic and memorable. The ROVIP voice is neutral, and we always place great emphasis on the voice of the brand being very neutral. There are very many accents across the 12 OCTs, and therefore we want to use a voice that is very neutral, and does not lean particularly to any one jurisdiction or the other. The voice must also be informative, sincere, compassionate, enthusiastic, welcoming, clear, concise, convincing, conversational, and confident. This tone will enhance the consumer experience and drive the culture, community, and conversation. It will also encourage interaction. So how does the ROVIP brand look and feel. Rovit is organic, innovative, exciting, bold, passionate, dynamic, adaptable, ambitious, emotional, and brave. The Rovit must exemplify the persona, tone, look, and feel in its approach to every story told. And why Rovit? Well, if all these stories are about impacting the lives of others, Rovit must win trust and engage the emotional core of our audiences. When we watch or read a story, we walk in the hero's shoes. We see life through his eyes. That creates empathy. That draws us deeper into the narrative. For a while, we own her story or his story, and that is powerful. The main goal is to get our audience to own our stories. In order to understand why storytelling is so persuasive, we also need to understand the classic story arc that has been central to storytelling for time immemorial. Every compelling narrative has a basic structure that will quickly captivate the audience so that they can't wait to find out what happens next. So in comms, we created what is the Rovit storytelling arc. The heroes are the beneficiaries. That is all of you. Those are your projects. You are the number one hero. The country, its communities, and its people. The challenge. This is one part of the story that we have to tell up front and center. Why this project? Why did we choose this project? What is the reason behind this project? What is the question this project is answering? What is the challenge that this project is solving? The solution, the intended impact of the project. The process, that's where ResinBid comes in and works with you and guides the solution to the challenge. The plan, ResinBid provides the tools and ability to address the challenges. The change, how has or will the solution change or changed thinking and doing in each of your countries? The success. ResinBid is the change agent and EU is the caring donor that helped the heroes, yourselves, achieve success. And an enhanced and improved country and people is the final impact and the resolution to the challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from me. I thank you for your attention. I thank you for staying put. I see we have not lost anyone. I kept looking at that to see if anyone was going to walk out during my presentation. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your involvement. Nisa and I stand ready to answer any questions and to provide any guidance and support going forward. And yes, I'm here to answer questions. Adeline, I think your hand went up first.
Hold on, sorry. We had a question from Manfred. How can we use or add to the toolkit? What is typical content? Manfred, I'm not sure I understand the question. Which toolkit and what content are you speaking about?
To clarify, thank you, Naisha. To clarify that a little bit, what I see in the papers of ResinBid, you refer to a toolkit. There's also budget related to that. That would be something related to best practices or things that we create and would be good for sharing with other projects or with the wider world. And I think that's also part of communication, and I'm missing it so far in your communication from ResinBid.
Okay, so the toolkit that we will provide is basically the best practice toolkit is the EU visibility guidelines. That is really all encompassing. As I mentioned, every EU funded project is guided by those guidelines. So what I can do is I can share that one, the one that we use and the one that only came out last year, which fortunately we do not have to follow because that is completely changing the way EU projects communicate. And then what our guidelines book do is it uses those, the general EU visibility guidelines and places ResinBid in there and your project. So we will tell you, as we've said in the presentations, how you represent ResinBid as well as these lovely people above me and then how you use these lovely people, Resembid, and your project. So for example, I'll try to share the screen before we leave, but it does show, you know, on a, what you call it? A letterhead where your logo, our logo, and these logos will go. It'll show if you're doing a cup or a mug or some kind of drinking vessel where all of the logos go. So it does kind of give you an example of how you can, your project or any project can be placed in the context of the Resembid rules, which are also governed by the EU rules. So I hope that helps. But again, and if you have any more questions, when you do get the guidelines, please feel free to ask us.
I do believe as well, Lisa, that each of the projects did receive the Resembid communication and visibility guidelines, correct?
Yes, but again, we did, based on things that we've seen, it does seem as though some people may not have gotten it at some point. So we're just going to send it all to everybody once again, including, as I would have said, all the logos, different kinds of logos, and anything that we would have shared in this presentation.
Okay, Edeline's hand was up, but I think it's now down. Edeline, do you have a question? I see Sue in does.
Sorry. Hello. Good day.
Hi.
Hi. Of course, at the start of the project, you make your promises of what you want to achieve for your communications. We are already a bit heading towards the end, and through some setbacks, we promised like 14 press releases, for example. Is there a way to like come to you guys, regather, and maybe talk about what we maybe are able to achieve or not still in our period, even if though we promised so much in the beginning? Yes.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Okay. We could just set up a call with Nisa, myself, the project manager, and yourself, and whosoever else from your team, and we can have a call and go through that and make certain recommendations as well. So that is absolutely fine, Sue.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to add to that point, and great question. And you know, to everybody who's on the call, we know that I mean you have the uphill task of executing your project, keeping the donor happy, doing the meal reports, hopefully sticking to the CNV plan, and we know things change. So if there is an incident, as you said, you know, you promised 14, but you realize, oh my gosh, you know, in the thick of things and actually doing the project, it's not feasible. That's fine, but just let us know so that we can work with you maybe to do 7, but 7 really impactful press releases versus 14 to just, you know, check a box. So do feel free. This is what Karen and I are here for. I hope you realize that we are quite pleasant people. We help when we can, and we really, because we really do, you know, take these projects and project communications really seriously and dear to our hearts. So please, if you come across any issues, if you're not sure, you know, you've gone through the structure of the press release, but still not sure how to do it, that really is what we are here for, and we are also here to adapt to, you know, to the reality of you actually implementing the project. So great question. All right, I see Suyin and Francisco.
I think Francisca's next.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. I have a similar question. At the beginning of the project, we did do a press release, but we didn't do a press conference. So now we are 4 months into the project. Should we do a press conference now to inform everybody about the beginning of the project, or should we, is it enough that we did a press release?
Okay, first question is, when does your project end?
In April next year.
Okay, so then you have more than enough time to do something now. So it's not necessarily going to be, it can be the project launch, but then you say we started this a couple months ago and here are some results, or this is what we're doing, and we're going to finish in, you know, next year. But these are the things that we hope to achieve. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You have more than enough time to do some sort of press conference now. Yes. Also remember, everyone, I hope you're all fired up to get ready to do all things communications, but do remember, particularly across the world really, and especially in the Caribbean, people do take their holidays quite seriously. July and August holidays. So just remember that in your communication and events, you don't want to have this amazing content and people are just not around to either view it or attend press conferences, for example. So just bear that in mind. And of course, again with events, bear in mind upcoming rainy season, hurricane season, etc. If you are planning an event in September, October, make sure it is indoor. And it does have provisions for rain. If it is outdoor, have a plan B, that kind of thing, just to be, very conscious of the region that we're in.
I don't see any more hands, Nisa. I don't know if there are any more questions. I wanted to take
one, Sabine, about the EU Commission style guide for press release. I have to admit I have not actually read that, but we have. I mean, Karen is a seasoned communications professional, particularly with a specialty in media relations, and we've edited and rewritten and approved many press releases. So I think the style that we've had is fine, as well as what Karen would have discussed. It's also very much a style for the Caribbean. But I will go through this, Sabine, and just I can get back to you bilaterally to respond to that. But just off the top, I think what we are doing is fine, and certainly what Karen went through. And when I shared the screen, I kind of showed the structure of what she's talking about. I think that's fine.
I wanted to just acknowledge the presence of Latoya Smith, who is our program manager for sustainable energy, who's also a part of the calls. I just wanted to acknowledge Latoya's presence here today. Hi, Latoya. Thank you for joining. I don't know if there are any more questions. Lisa, over to you, though. This is not, I don't know why I took over your session, but I'm done. Over to you.
This was yours, part of the part two. Okay, so I think we have answered all of the questions. Yes, Eric, of course, we will share the not just the recording, the slides, the EU visibility guidelines, the RESMBID guidelines, the logos. There's something else that I said we would share. It's somewhere in the chat. I will put the boilerplate again, the template for the newsletter. So there are a lot of things that are going to happen in the normally we just send a thank you and a recording, but in this case we really do have quite a bit of assets to share with you. So we will do that, allow us to put that together by the end of the week, and we will share. Please do feel free to share with your entire project team. I think it's always good to have several pairs of eyes on your communications and visibility material, because you can get quite tired of seeing it. So some extra eyes are always good. That being said, just one more thing. Do feel free to give us any feedback if this is a workshop that you want to have more of, if there's anything in particular that you want to cover, if you want to do, for example, a social media session, a traditional media session, another branding session. I mean, all of our contact information is in the presentation, which you will get. If you want to do the bilaterals, I see Atoya's hand up. If you want to have bilaterals about your project, about things to be approved, and the example of relook now that we're in the project, taking another look at your communications and visibility plan, we are happy to do so. So just reach out to Karen and I. We truly are here to help because your success is our success. So I'll take one more question from Atoya, and then I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for being on time, sticking with us for 2 hours with just a 5-minute break. You all have really been good. Thank you for the participation, and I really, really hope this helps. And again, we look forward to communicating with each and every one of you with your questions, comments, concerns, and of course, again, congratulations. You made it thus far. Well done.
Well done. Atoya?
Yes, hi team again. I'm so sorry for my late hand up. But my question goes towards the budget, as we would have prescribed specific things towards the budget. And I'm just thinking, as I mentioned earlier, we are planning to make a few changes with the way how we deliver our communications and visibility plan. And of course, with your approval. So what I'm trying to figure out right now is what we would have had for a budget. Can we move about monies however we feel like within the headings? And even if we have to remove something and replace it with something else, I'm just trying to figure out how lenient is Rizembe on us moving along things.
Okay, great question. And we actually dealt with a similar question maybe a week and a half ago. So first thing to remember, there is no more. So if you're once you're moving around money, once the figure does not change, fine. That being said, you do have to come to us as well as your program manager for approval, because again, we have to know what's happening, and two, it has to make sense, and we have to agree that it makes sense. It is not a problem. But once we are kept in the loop, as well as the PM, and then of course we approve, make a formal note in your file, and then yes. So there are, because again, as we already said, we know that it's, you submitted the CNV plans ages ago. Some people even over a year ago. So, and things change. So yes, absolutely, there is room for adjustment, but with collaboration. Okay. All right, no problem. Well, thank you, everyone. I think 12:08 is a great time to say goodbye and have a good lunch. And we look forward to chatting with you again. So by Friday, we will, of course, send the recap email. And if there's anything we've missed, you've missed, or you just want to ask about, do feel free to reach out to Karen and I. Have a great afternoon and a great rest of the week. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.